Our next student is Sydney Rekoff. Sydney attends John F. Kennedy High School in Cedar Rapids, and she is the daughter of Robin and William Rekoff, and her project is Cash Class.
A simple piggy bank. To you and I, it may be nostalgic, reminding us of times when things like college, careers, and expenses were far from our minds. This past June and July, my interpretation of piggy banks was transformed. To me, they became a symbol for opportunity, a symbol for change, the chance to bring hope into the lives of young people who desperately needed it. To me, piggy banks became the face of a program I call Cash Class. So what is Cash Class? On the outside, it's a program that I created and taught at the Henry Davison Youth Center in Cedar Rapids, a center that provides a safe place for kids to go after school and throughout the summer. The program was focused around financial literacy and entrepreneurship and was taught 2 times each week throughout the months of June and July to predominantly low-income students. But take a closer look, and I think that you will see that Cash Class is a system of impactful service. Not just service to put on a resume, or service for the sake of helping, but service to make a real difference. Sitting at the informational weekend here back in June, I was inspired. Inspired by those talking to us, inspired by the legacy of Herbert Hoover, and inspired by all the other uncommon students. I left that weekend with an outburst of energy and a new outlook on my goals for Cash Class. I had learned about Hoover's many efforts to help children throughout his years, and so I left feeling as though I wanted to make a true impact on the lives of the children at the HD Youth Center. I wanted to perform impactful service and continue on Hoover's legacy. But just how is impactful service really achieved? To me, it comes in 3 steps. First, help where you really have something to offer. Second, learn who you're helping and be adapted to their needs. And third, challenge yourself and challenge others. Walking into my first day of Cash Class, as you can probably imagine, I was very nervous. I had 15 young people, aged 6 to 13, who were under my leadership for the next 45 minutes. I didn't know if they'd find the curriculum I created to be fun, and I had no idea if I'd be able to keep their attention. In fact, going to that first day, I was hoping that by my last class, I'd have 1 or 2 students really engaged in the program. And just that, touching that many lives, was enough for me. But oddly enough, with all my nerves, I still felt prepared. I felt that I was passionate about what I was teaching, and like I was really attempting to help in an area where I had something to offer. Financial literacy and entrepreneurship are 2 things that are vitally important, yet are 2 things hardly ever required or sometimes even offered in traditional school systems. I knew I was prepared. From a young age, I've been fascinated by different financial processes, constantly asking questions or reading books about things like banking and investing. I've even dabbled in entrepreneurship, opening my own ice cream shop inside a public market in Cedar Rapids in 2012, which has since merged with a popcorn shop my brother opened to make me a co-owner of a much larger business. I was organized, and I knew that the information I was teaching was accurate and useful. I'd begun reaching out to several community members, asking them questions, and also fact-checked all of my information online. And I had age on my side. With most of the students being just a few years younger than me, I knew that I'd be able to connect with them on these topics in a way that an adult teaching the same thing might not be able to. And so, Cash Class began. My next task was grasping just who my students were and how I could best adapt my teaching strategies to fit them. I was inspired to create Cash Class because I'd helped at the HD Youth Center for years, assisting in their after-school program, Easter egg hunt, and annual giveaway of backpacks and school supplies. I knew that most of the children came from very low-income families, and that at a young age, many had already been exposed to some very tragic things. But one incident, which actually occurred on my first day of class, really put this reality into perspective for me. On that first day, I brought with me 15 pink and blue piggy banks, donated by a local bank for the program. I gave each participant a bank and passed around markers and stickers so they could decorate them as they desired. I then explained a contest surrounding the banks. Whoever saved the most money at the end of the 6 weeks would win their prize. At the end of that class, one of the boys came up to me and asked if I'd keep his bank for him. I said yes, but was a little confused, so I asked him why. He said, "One time I had a whole $3 saved in a piggy bank, but my mom stole it while I was at school. I'm afraid she might do it again." I didn't know what to say. One of the volunteers at the center later explained to me that that boy's mother had been on and off of drugs for years, and that the money probably went towards feeding her addiction. At less than 10 years old, this boy could not even trust his own parent to keep his personal belongings safe. He became my motivation to give Cash Class 110% and make sure that each and every student was impacted in the process. Herbert Hoover once said, "Children are our most valuable natural resource." I took this idea and ran with it. I wanted to show that the children of the Youth Center could not only learn, but apply the foundations of financial literacy and entrepreneurship. I set out to prove that these students, often the ones you describe as struggling or underperforming the classroom, could live up to Hoover's belief just as much as any straight-A student could. Doing this required adapting my curriculum. So I created a workbook. I came to understand that the best way to capture these young people's attention was through interactive activities, and so the pages of the book came to reflect this. As you'll see around me, these are a couple of pages included, which included things like the functions of different financial services and the programs like checkings and savings accounts which they provide, a step-by-step guide to counting back change, and learning the difference between net income and profit based off a lemonade stand. I also had each of the students sign a contract agreeing to have good behavior and enthusiasm towards the class. I use this as an opportunity to explain the significance of contracts in the financial world and to display the importance of always reading things thoroughly before agreeing to anything. Each student was also given a financial scenario to work through throughout the program. This included an occupation and income based off the average salaries for that position in Iowa, as well as either a starting savings or a debt. I explained that these scenarios were not equal nor fair, not because I was trying to put anyone at a disadvantage, but because I was trying to stress the fact that in life things aren't fair, and we must learn to adapt to our circumstances the best that we can. I drew inspiration for this part of the program from Herbert Hoover. As many of us know, his legacy surrounding the Great Depression is sometimes tainted for his lack of direct intervention in economic affairs. He believed in encouraging others to help one another, and helping build society up to a place where they could care for themselves. His views were rooted in people's abilities to examine their circumstances and react to them as best they could. As I also learned, the students I would be teaching would not be the only factor I'd have to adapt to. Originally, I envisioned Cash Class being taught in 2 6-week sessions, one focused on financial literacy and another on entrepreneurship. But a change in management at the center meant that I'd only have time to complete one session. So I had a challenge on my hands. Instead of cut out one of the topics, I decided to merge the two together, which created a really cool opportunity because it allowed these two things to be taught cohesively. As my last session of Cash Class drew near, I knew I needed a fun way to wrap up the program. The kids had worked really hard, and their growth was astounding, so I decided to reward them with a trip to my ice cream and popcorn shop. They could all pick out a treat, but there was a catch. They had to count back the change for me for that item. For some, it came easy, and off they were with their tasty snacks. For others, it took a couple extra tries, but they all got it eventually. Here were kids, some who when they came in struggled to perform even basic addition and subtraction problems, now grasping a concept that many of my friends, in fact many people older than me, still struggle to understand. Remember when I said that on my first day of class I hoped to reach 1, maybe 2 kids? Well, 6 weeks later, and I found myself with a group of 15 young people fascinated by the things they'd learned, excited to share them with their friends. I challenged myself to be a positive influence in their lives after that first day the boy asked me to keep his piggy bank. And standing there, I knew to at least some degree that challenge had been completed. But that was not the sole defining moment of when I knew a challenge I set out to achieve was done. That moment actually came when I saw my students take the initiative and challenge themselves. One day I got a call from the director at HD Youth with some exciting news. A few of the kids from Cash Class had gotten together and asked her if they could hold a lemonade stand in front of the center to practice some of their new skills. When I returned for the next class, they were so excited to get in on their new business venture. They'd go on to continue this project throughout the rest of the summer and even began to include kids who hadn't been in cash class, sharing their newfound skills with them. They had been challenged by the program to go out and take a chance, to dream a little bit. And the best part about it was that they had the motivation to set out to inspire those around them. As a mentor and a peer, I could not have been more impressed by their growth throughout the program. As I conclude, I would like to thank everyone who made cash class not only possible, but impactful. Thank you to my family, recommenders, and the HD Youth Center board members. Thank you to all of you at the Hoover Presidential Foundation for uncovering a confidence in me deeper than I even knew existed. When I started cash class, I assumed that I would be the one inspiring others. What I instead found was an inspiration within myself from everyone. The children I taught, the other uncommon students here today, all those who assisted me in this journey, and of course, Herbert Hoover. As you'll see behind me, these are photos I recently took from a trip I recently took to Stanford University, a school that before attending the Student Award Weekend here back in June, I had not even considered. But after getting an inside look at the life of Herbert Hoover and learning more about the significance that Stanford held in his heart, I was inspired to learn more. I'm happy to report that in the next few days, I will be submitting my application to Stanford. I have a passion for financial literacy. I hope to continue on with cash class and help those with very little, those to whom this knowledge is vital, improve their financial situations. I want to leave all of you here today with a challenge to find a cause that you're really passionate about and to make your service impactful, and through this continue on the legacy of Herbert Hoover. Service on any level is a fantastic thing, but when we can focus our efforts, assist through what we're good at, understand those we're helping, and challenge both ourselves and others, our level of impact will proliferate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions?
Great job.
Thank you.
Yes, I've got two. One, how did the students hear about this? And two, speaking as an old teacher, did you draw up a curriculum that you followed for each class time?
Yeah, okay, so the first question, these children were attending the center on a pretty regular basis, and so the director of the center reached out to kids that she thought could be really impacted by the program and who would really enjoy it. The center on a pretty regular basis, and so the director of the center reached out to kids that she thought could be really impacted by the program and who would really enjoy it. Originally, I wanted to offer it to all the kids at the center, but then I realized that I could probably have a greater impact if I limited it to about 15 students, just so I could work one-on-one with more of them. And so I'm hoping to actually do another session of this here pretty soon, and also create another advanced session for any of the kids who've already completed the program. And then for the other question, I drew up an agenda for each day of class so that I'd just be able to follow that. And sometimes I went off of it, or someone asked a question that I just really want to talk about. And so it was pretty flexible, but I did make sure to record everything. And that way, if I do have another session, I can use all of those notes and recreate it as best I can.
I've got a comment. I don't know if you play sports or any extracurricular activities, but what you're doing, I don't see how you have time for any of that. And thank you very much for your public service.
Thank you.
What did you find the most difficult concept to get the students to understand?
I guess one of the harder ones was just teaching the difference between the money that you bring in a business and the money that you're actually making. Because for a lot of them, they haven't been exposed to a lot of business people or really this idea at all, so it was kind of a foreign topic to them. And so as you can kind of see, this was my page in the workbook dedicated to that. And so I started off by explaining terms that might be a little hard for them to understand. And so, but then as I went, I got a little easier. And so instead of having like net income, expenses, profit, it went down to the money that you bring in, the money you count in your jar, the money it takes to have your stand, and the money that you get to keep. And so for them, that really simplified it, and I think they were able to grasp the idea a little bit better. But I also wanted to expose them to the actual words for if they encounter those later in life.
What do you want to do after you get done with Stanford?
I'd love to either continue my ice cream popcorn shop, otherwise start another business. I just love entrepreneurship, and so I think it would be really great if I could do that. But whatever I do, I'd really like to continue to be able to work with children and share my passions for financial literacy and entrepreneurship with them and help build them up.
I think that's great. Cash you can hold in your hand, and a 10-year-old or 12-year-old can actually feel that. How did you approach the idea of entrepreneurship, which is a concept maybe more than something you can just hold in your hand?
Yeah, so the cool thing with that is I've become friends with a lot of these students before the program, just from helping out at the center a lot. And so they had kind of heard about my business, and so that's actually what motivated me in large part to start the program, because they'd start to ask me questions like, how do you start your own business? Kids can actually start their own business, and like, what do you do with all that money? And so I had to explain to them that you don't just get to keep all the money, and that there's a lot that goes into it. And so I think just having that example and being able to actually take them to my ice cream shop and see the things that I do really helped them to understand that entrepreneurship is a concept, and that it's very important, and that if you work really hard at it, you can understand the things that go along with it.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Well, I do think you have a big advantage by being close to their age. But certainly during the summer, there were times when they were distracted or didn't want to pay attention. What did you do to keep them interested?
Yeah, so that was definitely a challenge, especially because there's a lot of other kids at the center who weren't in the program. And so, of course, when their friend walks in, they want to go over and say hi. But I really explained to them that the program was going to be really helpful to their future, and that the more focused they could be, the better off it would help them. And so I also, I talked about how I made a lot of interactive activities, and I found that that really helped. And so I tried to start off each class with some type of craft or other project, because when they could actually do something with their hands to start off the class, I found that their focus was a lot stronger.
Were you in a closed-off room, or were you actually in a big room with
We were actually in a big room, and so there's the computers and all of the toys and different things were on this side, and then we had a little table right in the middle. So that could be a struggle at times, because there's sometimes up to 50 kids in the center, and so when you're trying to teach 15 of them over in an open section, that can be a struggle.
I apologize for asking another
No
question.
problem.
You said that you printed up a book for the kids. Do you have that book, that you can share?
Yeah, I actually have that with me.
Okay. Maybe after all of this, when we take pictures and things, it'd be fun to see that. And I think it'd be a great idea for some of these after-school programs to see your book.
Yeah, that's why I really tried to be very particular in crafting it so that I could distribute it to others so they could use it as well.
For the kids that were struggling either during the program or at the end, when you mentioned like some kids did it really easily and then some needed a couple of tries, did you have any materials that you could send with them or anything additional for the kids that kind of needed a little something extra?
Yeah, so the kids that were kind of struggling to grasp the basic concept, I'd ask them to stay after class sometimes, just because they're going to be at the center anyway. And so I'd work with them just on addition and a couple other things. Otherwise, I really made sure that while I was teaching, I would call on them so that they could actually try to respond, which could have been a little stressful at times, but I just thought it was really important that they worked through it just as much as the other kids until they actually got it. So.
I guess that concludes our questions. Thank you very much. We appreciate your work and time.